Hello, brothers and sisters. Hope you're doing well on this beautiful Monday of Christmas week. I'm at Greenwood High School's football stadium, and I had some time to put together a little video that I'm thinking about on a topic I'm thinking about in light of coming to the end of 2025, heading into 2026. And of course, you know the name of the game, many times discussions, emails, social media, and topics of reflections on the year and resolutions for the next will come up again and again. And I typically like to lean into that a little bit, but from a Christian perspective, to consider different things in our lives that we should examine and look back on in ways to think about how we press on forward together in faith. And one subject that has come up, I think, quite a bit in the last year, in my life as a dad and as a husband, raising my children as they're growing and maturing in so many ways, especially as a pastor in many conversations, discipling, counseling, hard conversations, challenging conversations, preaching, even in my relationship with other pastors. And it's this topic. What is the difference between an excuse we make versus a divine providential hindrance or limitation God puts on us? So what's an excuse? We might want to say a cop-out, a lame reason for why we don't do X, Y, and Z, versus a legitimate limitation, a legitimate providential hindrance, a legitimate boundary that God has placed on our life, at least in this current season, that prohibits us from doing X, Y, and Z. And I want to use an illustration. So here I am out at a football stadium, and let's say, for example, someone challenged me and said, Blake, I want you to jump from the top of the bleachers, the top of the press box, and I want you to fly. Now, here's the question. Can I fly off the top of the press box? Well, I can certainly try, but I can tell you what's going to happen. I am not going to be able to overcome gravity. I am going to jump off that press box, and I am going to fall flat on my face into those bleachers, and I'm going to be deeply injured to the point where I'm going to be in the hospital with some really painful injuries. Hopefully it wouldn't be fatal. But it wouldn't matter how much you challenged me. It wouldn't matter how much you tried to entice me, how much you tried to educate me on flying and how birds do it. Or you could just strap on some kite, a kite on my back. No matter what I tried to do, if I tried to fly off the top of that press box, I am not going to be able to do it. It's humanly impossible. I'm not built to fly, okay? Second illustration. If someone said, Blake, I want you to be able to go inside the GMAC, that's their kind of auxiliary sports arena for all sorts of sports. And right now Noah's doing some practice for his varsity soccer. And I went up to Coach Woods and I said, hey, Coach Woods, can I try out for the team this year? I've been training, I've been getting ready. I even bought some really expensive soccer cleats. I've got all the apparel. I've been doing recruiting. When can I get on the team? Well, Coach Woods is going to look at me and go, sir, is this a joke? And I'm going to know, sir, I'm ready for this. I've trained for this. I have more passion than anybody on this team to do this. And he would say something like this, sir, you're the father of one of my players. You're 40 years old. You're not even in high school. You can't play on my varsity soccer team. Well, what am I running into there? I've got the desire. Let's say I trained and did all the education and preparation needed, but I'm running into a legal boundary that by the state's requirement and their school's requirement, I wouldn't meet the requirements to even be enrolled in school and much less play on the soccer team. So in that sense, there's another boundary. No matter what kind of desire or ability I have, I'm not allowed to do it. So illustration one, press box, jump off top of the press box. It's humanly impossible for me to fly. That's a limitation God has placed on me. I don't have that ability to do that. The second one is I actually have the desire. I can do a lot of preparation, and I could potentially physically do it. But if I tried to go join the high school or the varsity soccer team right now, it doesn't matter about my desire. It doesn't matter even about my ability. I don't meet the age requirements because I am 22 years late on doing that, okay? But if someone said this, hey, Blake, I want you to run for me a 6-minute mile. Now, I can tell you this just straight up. Right now, if you tried to time me and run a 6-minute mile, I would not do that. I don't care how many times I tried this week. I would never do that. And here's why. Because I haven't trained for it. I am out of shape to run at that kind of speed. I've never been able to do that my whole life. Now, here's the question. Is me, Blake Boylston at 40, running a 6-minute mile a complete impossibility, just like it is flying off a press box or just like it is playing varsity soccer? Or is it a very difficult task that would require more of me than I'm probably willing to pay? And the answer is, yeah, that's exactly it. Is it possible I could run a 6-minute mile? Well, I think if I trained for the next 12 months, maybe not even that long, and I did everything a trainer told me to do, and I lost probably 20 to 30 pounds, there is a really good chance I could do that. Now, I can tell you right now, if someone said, hey, I want you to run a 6-minute mile, not only can I not do it, I don't want to do it. I'm not motivated to run a 6-minute mile. I would like to do other things, but I don't want to do a 6-minute mile. I don't see the point. I don't see the purpose. I don't get any satisfaction out of that. I don't see any really need to do that. So at that point, I kind of really don't care. So what's the difference there? The difference there is desire. It's not purely ability. Could I do it? Yes. But what would be required of me? A ton of training, a ton of stretching, a ton of conditioning, and a lot of time spent getting ready for that. Let me put it another way. Let's say for a moment, tomorrow, I lost my job for whatever reason. And let's just say as a pastor, let's say the church closed or something. I don't know. And I no longer had an income. I've got a mortgage. I've got kids. My family's depending on me. I've got groceries. I've got all sorts of needs riding on me. I have no money coming in. But let's say, for example, someone came up to me and said, hey, Blake, if you run a 6-minute mile, I will not only pay your mortgage and any debt you have, but I'll also give you 20 years of salary money up front if you can run a 6-minute mile. Now think about that for a minute. What do you think I would do if I got that kind of incentive? I would train harder than an Olympic athlete. I would do whatever it took. Why? Because the need was so pressing that it increased my desire and urgency and motivation. So here's my point of this whole illustration between excuses we make, which are cop-outs, and things that we say that we can't do or whatever, versus providential, God-ordained limitations. The issue in that third part of the illustration, it just gets down to desire. How bad do you want it? It gets down to conviction. What are first principles, first priorities? What are things that should shape and mark my life? And I think many of our excuses in our life, not all, I think some are legitimate limitations that God has placed on us, that we can't be everywhere at once. We can't do everything at once. We can't be everything to everyone at once. We're not God. We're not omnipresent. We're not omniscient. We're not omnipotent. We're not any of those things. And there are certain limitations that you and I will not be allowed to do because of our age, or because of where we live, or because of fill in the blank. Those are God-ordained limitations, God-ordained providential hindrances. But I would venture to say, if someone were to challenge us about, why don't you spend this next 12 months investing in a small group in your church? Why don't you spend the next 12 months spending time with members of the church that don't seem to have many friends? For the next 12 months, I want you to grow in your understanding of the Bible. I want you to take a seminary class, or I want you to dive deeper in a systematic theology book. Or if someone came to you and said, hey, I want you to learn, I want you to be able to teach. I want you to be able to teach a group of women, or teach a group of men, or teach the students. Or, hey, I want you to really consider what it would look like for you to create some margin in your life and create some room in your budget to think of ways that you can facilitate taking care of missionaries and pastors. I can come up with all sorts of different incentives and challenges and ways that we can orient our life around God's kingdom, God's church, God's mission, right where we're at, with all our weaknesses, limitations, but eliminate the excuses. And I would venture to say, many of the things that we say, I'm too tired, I don't have time, I don't know how, when it really gets boiled down to it, it's desire. We're afraid, we're scared of risk, we're scared of failure, it's unbelief. We're putting too much pressure on ourselves. We're forgetting that no, without God, we can do nothing, but with Him, with the grace He gives and the wisdom He gives and the direction He gives, we can face any and every circumstance through Christ who strengthens us. And if it's impossible with us, but God says in His Word, this is what we're supposed to be doing with our lives, making disciples, shepherding our families, providing for our families, working hard, whatever that is, guys, this is where God's power shows up. When we're weak, when we're weary, when we're taxed, God's not putting burdens on us to crush us, but He is going to challenge us and put weight on the weight rack to teach us how to trust Him. And we'll look back on a given year or a given season and see God's power on display. And you'll say with all the other saints that have trusted the Lord in this way, man, I didn't have a clue how I was going to be able to do that internship. I didn't have a clue how I was going to be able to work 2 jobs and go to school at night. I didn't have a clue how I was going to raise 4 kids and do X, Y, and Z. But wow, look what God did. He made a way when I thought there was no way. So brothers and sisters, what are those excuses, those cop-outs, these unbelief, fear-driven reasons we are saying, I can't, I don't have time? Why isn't the desire there? Because we always make time for the things that matter the most to us. And at the end of the day, friends, each of us are going to have to give an account of our life before Christ. Each man, each woman, each boy and girl, if you're in Christ, you are going to give an account for your life. And each person will have to give an account of the stewardship of our life. And I will tell you, on that last day, I want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. I don't want to hear, hey, Blake, I gave you X, Y, and Z stewardship, but about 1/3 of it you didn't use. You made a lot of excuses. I love you. You're not condemned. But as 1 Corinthians 3 says, that's going to be burned up in a refining fire, and that's not going to make it to reward. You wasted it. You wasted that time. You wasted those resources. You missed those relationships. You didn't take the risk. You made excuses. Yeah, I don't want to come to the end of my life and that be the regrets I had. So how about you? What are the excuses you need to eliminate? Bring them to the Lord. Give them over to Him. What are the limitations? What are the providential hindrances that God has made abundantly clear, whether it's with your health or your family dynamics or where you currently live or whatever it is? What are those things that you are humanly impossible, cannot do, and should not do? And be able to narrow those things down. It'll simplify life. It'll clarify what God wants to do with you. And maybe share those with others. Because sometimes we may be calling something a limitation that God's put on us, but it's actually an excuse. So we might need to have some checks and balances. Yeah, and then there are some of us that can beat ourselves up too much, and we can say, man, I just make so many excuses. But some of them might be legitimate limitations, and they may have to do with, keeping your priorities in check, that no, you can't do X, Y, and Z, at least not right now in this season. So it might be wise and prudent to share with someone so they can help you see if you're categorizing those things well. Well, there it is, brothers and sisters. There's a thought for the day. Hopefully that'll give you some encouragement and something to think about. May God show off His power and wisdom to make a way when we thought there was no way. And may the Lord teach us humility on realizing we're not God. We can't be everywhere at once. We can't be everything to everyone at once. We live in a certain place, in a certain time, in a particular body, and the Lord will give us what we need to do what He's called us to do every time. We always have time to do what He wants us to do. Pray that God would give us each wisdom to find out what that is. God bless.